I've braved the icy tundra using a taxi to cross countries and oceans to make it for Thanksgiving dinner with my dear friend Martin. And I hope it's traditional and, nicely put together and that there's nothing weird waiting for me. I really appreciate you having me over.
Oh, you're welcome. This is, of course, my first time cooking Thanksgiving dinner. Now, I know what you're thinking. Last two Thanksgivings that we spent together were terrible. And and you'd be right. But let's think back to the good times, like old man Carver dying from picking up a rock, like the voice of Darkseid from the Snyder Cut of Justice League being in a Thanksgiving cartoon, like that one we watched where the caveman went
Oh,
into the tree and they played the Jonestown Audio Massacre. Like, what did we watch last year?
The fuck
The Wizard of Oz, like the Wizard of
yeah, and the
Oz.
Hannah and I think like a Hanna-Barbera one is what the other one was.
Yes. Don't tell me your belly's aching. That
Oh
was
yeah,
the one that
that's
we
the
watched. Anyway, we had a terrible time with all of those. I won't deny it. What was the point I was trying to make? Anyway, we are here again. We found something else. I can assure you this year will be different. Now, please take your seat at my table and unfurl the first steel dome to reveal part one of our Thanksgiving feast.
one. Okay, um wait, this is just a little note card that says get slimed. Uh-oh.
That's right. That's right.
You've slimed me.
Do you remember slime?
Slime is still kind of a thing.
Slime is still kind of a thing. They use it for like ASMR these days. They don't really gunge people the way they used to. Probably
Yeah.
because it was very, very toxic. But speaking of slime, that brings us to the sponsor of this episode, Nickelodeon. Whomst Whomst produced a Thanksgiving cartoon called Nick's Thanksgiving Fest, not to be confused with Nick's Thanksgiving Feast, which
A
is
non-existent special with a better name.
yes, correct, and potentially better
And
content.
I guess I should say we usually do two Thanksgiving things in specials like these, but today we're doing one because I watched the one and I was like, I think this is enough. I think I've had it.
A very visceral reaction to Nick's Thanksgiving Fest. Tommy, why don't you introduce Nick's Thanksgiving Fest? And while you do it, why don't you chow down on some of my delicious living carrots while the turkey cooks and bastes itself? Literally.
And we get like there's a stuffing monster. We're getting ahead of ourselves a bit. So this was a Thanksgiving special that aired in 1989 on Nickelodeon. And you sent me the link for it. I don't know how you happened upon it, but you found it. Maybe it didn't exist before now and it's like some haunted eldritch thing that exists just to haunt us, you know.
I don't know how you happened upon it, but you found it. Sounds like what someone says before they're given the lament configuration.
Oh yeah. Well, that's how I felt watching this, is that you just cursed me for all time. Um um and so like and I saw the title was Nick's Thanksgiving Fest. And I was like, "Oh, this looks like early Nickelodeon. Maybe there'll be some like because I like some of the Nick Holiday like crossover things they do later, just some interstitials where it's like Ren and Stimpy and Doug and SpongeBob all having fun, And I thought it would be like a Thanksgiving that.
Mm.
But it turns out this was 2 years before original Nicktoons had even originated. It wouldn't be till 1991 that we got the original trio of Rugrats, Ren and Stimpy, and Doug. So this was when Nick was still like a hub for British and Canadian cartoons and like old sitcom reruns. So this would come on probably after something like Count Duckula and old reruns of Mr. Ed, I imagine.
Was Mr. Ed the horse?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
He's like, I think there's this YouTube page I follow called Pop Arena that retrospects every thing to ever air on Nickelodeon, and they were just talking about how much they fucking hated Mr. Ed.
I like to read it with my hay.
But when you get finished with the paper, nobody else can look at it.
Hey, Wilbur, get a load of this story. Here at the bottom of the page in the corner.
Little old lady leaves cat $50,000. Oh, that's silly.
What do you mean, silly?
What's a cat gonna do with $50,000?
Well, he won't have to chase mice in his old age.
That's true. He could buy himself 40 or 50 cows, have a lifetime supply of milk.
That cat's got security, which is more than I've got.
Oh, that was the biggest chore to fucking sit through. Anyway.
There was a British sketch show called The Fast Show, which had a character called Mr. Dead, and it was a parody of Mr. Ed, and he was just a corpse in a coffin.
That's fucking hilarious. I thought you were gonna say a dead horse, which, like, I guess is pretty macabre, but I don't know, just a bottle of glue. I don't know. So there were no like original IP or Nick characters to like sprinkle throughout this. Maybe this would have looked different in some time. I don't know when like the heavy material of like Christmas interstitials with all the characters having a Christmas party really became like big or conceivable. But what we got was, and I could kind of, so like it starts with a couple like interstitials. It's two short animated films that are kind of the centerpieces with like a handful of Thanksgiving related gag strips and interstitials to tie it together. And the first thing that struck me was the animation style of the short interstitials was like, that bumper that like was the very first Nick bumper of that very distinct art style of the guy singing Nick, 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 Nick. Like, do you know the promo I'm talking about?
I don't think so, no.
I guess what I'm trying to say is the art style of the guy who is hunting carrots and what is it? Oh yeah, so they show like a cranberry sauce the very first one. They show a cranberry sauce factory. It's this tube-shaped man that all of them take this art style of. And that was like kind of the Nick mascot look at the time, is what I'm trying to articulate.
It's vaguely Rugrats-esque.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That they used for all their commercials. And it would always be something really fucking wacky. Because the whole idea of Nick was like, hey, kids live in the adults' world. Let's let them be wacky as possible here. So the first skit we get really embodies that because it's a cranberry jam factory. And they're like, how do you jam the cranberries into the can so well? And they're like, well, there's only one way with such dense cranberries. And it's like a big conveyor belt lifting elephants and slamming them into the cans to tightly contain them.
Did you misunderstand this? Because I thought that the elephants were literally crapping the cranberries into the cans at one point because they were making like there was a fart noise as it was going down.
I hope that's not the case.
I don't think it was, but it was like a really sort of like that was at first my eyes kind of went, what on earth? Because they were like
because as they lower down, it's like a squelching sound effect of the cranberries, but I can see how I don't think that would be allowed on a kid's TV. I don't think you can show like
it might have been a bit graphic, yeah.
Yeah, defecation. But it fits in the Nick spirit of like, oh, how wacky this mundane Thanksgiving thing actually is elephants. I don't know.
Yeah. Possibly the best part of the special, I think, as well.
It's all downhill from here.
The wraparound segments are all we have, I think.
Excuse me, sir. Is there any special technique in canning cranberries?
Oh, you mean cranberries. How else do you think we can cram so many of those little fellers into these itty-bitty cans? And the best part is, they work for peanuts.
And even at that, it's just kind of it's a weak chuckle. I felt like the ostrich from Family Guy. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
it is that. Yeah, exactly.
And all of the interstitials, it's like a newspaper strip level of funny, where it's like, oh, cute, I guess.
It's better than BC the First Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's like,
We've still not.
I don't think it could be any worse than that.
I don't think anything ever could be. At least we've got that. I did enjoy the joke where the guy goes, and they'll work for peanuts. But that,
Oh, yeah.
again, it was another like moment. Very
I
good.
get it.
Yeah. But those are the best two jokes in the entire thing.
Yeah, unfortunately. Should we like knock out all the minis before the two vignettes like completely drive us out of our minds?
I don't remember the others. I remember there's one where
So
they're following a turkey around trying to find
yeah, so it's like they cut consistently back to one about hunting a turkey, and the turkey, of course, panicked, runs away. And it's like, I think like a nature documentarian. Like if this were made a decade later, it would have been Nigel Thornberry, I like to think.
Yeah, that would have been great. What do
Smosh it.
turkeys? Yeah. How do they get the cranberries in there, Marianne? My terrible Nigel Thornberry turned into Pennywise towards the end.
Well, it's all Tim Curry.
Excuse me, sir. Do you have cranberries in a can? You do? Well, you better let them out.
It's a little seasonal. We're recording this now because they just released a second Nickelodeon character fighting game, and they very stubbornly, they don't put in any other main character from Wild Thornberries besides Nigel. He's the only one they want.
Fair enough, I guess.
And actually, the more I think about it, he does have his super move is dropping an elephant on the opponent, so that is perhaps a covert reference to this special.
Maybe.
Maybe.
He refused to be involved.
Yeah. There's a short, and then like we cut back to the turkeys now and then, and there's one point where they're wearing fake antlers and saying they're moose to avoid getting eaten. And again, it's kind of a yeah, I get it. And
like
then
my reactions to you describing the special are all
yep.
going, mm-hmm.
Well, no, there's a true kind of a shocking bit actually. The punchline of the turkey bit is they're like, well, the turkeys were running because they were on their way to their own Thanksgiving. What do turkeys eat on Thanksgiving? And they lift the dome dish lid. It's a little human, and he just goes, "What were you expecting? A burger and fries?"
Yeah, they eat.
And I found that imagery kind of haunting, honestly.
It's yeah. I thought I knew it was going to be a human. I guessed that, but I thought it was going to be more horrific, and it was going to be like a human that had been roasted on a spit, and they'd be like fully dead and under the dome.
Right.
I was surprised the guy was alive, but maybe I am.
And see, ostensibly just very accepting of his fate, I think, is the upsetting part.
If this had been Ren and Stimpy, you'd have had a really graphic image of like a burnt man screaming when they lifted up that dome.
Oh man, fucking Invader Zim Thanksgiving special where he's on fire, but then it like turns out he's fine to appease censors. I don't know.
Stimpy, you idiot! You meant to cook the humans first.
Do a pretty good Ren, actually. That's really good. We idiot. And then there's like a very hacky bit where it's like having grandma and grandpa over for Thanksgiving, and they're like, oh, are grandma and grandpa gonna go what are they gonna do after dinner? And they're like, well, we're gonna watch TV, of course. And they're like, a gentle holiday special. Nope, bone crunching football. And that's
Yeah.
kind of the joke.
Yep.
Oh man, I
So
think
many things in this set up what you think is going to be a funnier joke than it is. And then
yeah.
they rip it out from under you, and it's just that, and then it ends. And then we move on.
Yep. And there's like a little it's like da dun dun, little instrumental cue. Well, and I get the impression that like they got both the cartoons they ordered. They came back just a bit short.
Yeah.
And they're like, fuck, we have to fill 4 minutes and 38 seconds. And they were kind of pressed for time putting something together.
I mean, you say that, but I get the impression they didn't even get the cartoons they ordered because
No, yeah, they were like, we need two 11-minute cartoons, and they got like something really strange, like an 8-minute like off-brand thing that they felt really uncomfortable about, but didn't want to press any further. They're like, well, this doesn't quite match the storyboards we sent. But fuck, Thanksgiving is in 2 days. I don't know what the fuck we're gonna
5 minutes of this isn't animated.
Yeah. And that's you're talking about the second segment, right?
Yes.
So we'll get to I think we saved that one because the tonal whiplash, I think, is no small part.
Yeah, there's quite a difference. I mean, I didn't enjoy either of them, but the first one is certainly more what you would expect than the second one.
Right. So the first one is called Thanksgiving Nightmare. And it opens
Which could have been the title of the entire special.
special. I would argue this is the less scary of the two, to be fair. Oh man, and it opens on a family, a white suburban family, never worried about rent a day in their fucking lives. I can just tell. And they're enjoying Thanksgiving gregariously, and they're like, well, let's walk off that Thanksgiving dinner. And as they take off, their house is infested by a rat and a cockroach. And they both want to have some of their Thanksgiving leftovers they've left on the table. The house's cat, a la Tom and Jerry, is tasked with protecting the dinner, he is threatened that if he fails to do so, he will be thrown out. Which right off the bat kind of enraged me because it's like you're the ones not. No one goes for a walk in my household without cleaning up the goddamn table. What the fuck?
Who goes for a walk immediately after Thanksgiving dinner as well? Well, I'm feeling tired and bloated. I'm going to go for a walk immediately after I finish.
It's a very dad thing to suggest, but like usually you wait at least an hour or so after.
You don't get up from the table, grab your coat, and just leave the house.
Well, then it's also psychotic that the kids are like, we don't want to go for a walk. And he's like, well, stop at Dairy King. And it's like, who goes to Dairy Queen on Thanksgiving?
Will it even be open?
I don't think it might not. I have a feeling that like when this was made, it wouldn't have been open, but today it would be.
Yeah, today people are gonna be sitting up after their Thanksgiving dinner, really hankering for some Dairy Queen. We need to keep the store open.
Well, like my experiences are not universal, but my family makes no less than 3 pies for dessert on Thanksgiving, and imagining eating that and the dinner. And then being like, well, time to drive through Dairy Queen. So fucking. Mostly because it's like not even seasonal. Like if you were like,
what psychopaths get up after an enormous meal and just leave the meal all over the table when there's loads of leftovers? I'm sure this food won't soil if we go out for a couple of hours.
Well, like, and they're like, now. And they tell the cat not to look. What do you expect the cat to fucking do when you leave it all over the table? We are dissecting like 30 seconds of content far beyond like what. Like, I don't know if you're just going to loop the parts we're mentioning clip wise or what.
I just think if I had a house that was infested with cockroaches and mice and I had a cat, that I'd left to guard the meal that I had left on the table, I don't think I would have gone for my after dinner walk.
No, yeah, I would be worried about the infestation.
It's quite an infestation as well. Mice and cockroaches living together in separate corners of the house.
But at the same time, maybe we're just mad at the cat for not like instantly fixing it, because it seems like that's who we're holding responsible.
Maybe, I mean,
Useless.
if they,
Yeah, sorry.
if they are leaving all that food out all the time, perhaps that is why they've got the infestation in the first place.
Oh, precisely. I think that's exactly the case. Is they spend 5 hours getting Dairy King after every meal they have, entrusting the cat to not allow vermin to infest their table.
The meal also features what I think is like the most realistically awful sounding belch I've ever heard put to film, where it sounds like one of the crew just went into the microphone.
Sounds more like Dad is just like didn't take his Pepto-Bismol. He's having a little indigestion.
It sounds like he's just about to projectile vomit the dinner.
Gosh, Mom, that was the best Thanksgiving dinner ever.
Now, Sissy, you know better than to talk with your mouth full.
It's really like graphic and disturbing.
Well, this whole family is so fucked up. Like, just looking at their designs one by one, they're all like a little grotesque, and none of them really look like they're from the same cartoon. If you know what I mean. Like,
do we ever? We don't see their faces, do we? We only ever see their.
No,
names.
we do. I every time I shut my eyes, I remember it. We see their faces, and they look like 5 different people drew entirely different cartoons.
All I remember seeing is that woman's legs, and she had a really weird walk.
She did. Yeah,
stomping with every step. It was like someone had never seen somebody walk before. What do you do when you walk? You just move your legs up and down. That's what you do.
Oh yeah. So we've been talking about this for like 5 minutes. We haven't touched on arguably the actual main characters, who are the mouse and the cockroach. And what's like, it's bizarre because like the mouse has this really retro looking design. Like he kind of looks like a Mickey Mouse knockoff from like Rubber Hose era. Yeah. And then the cockroach has like a backwards cap and, if I recall correctly, like a basketball jersey.
He's got
so again, it seems
early 90s hip hop style.
Yeah.
As was the style at the time.
Right. And so the mice and the roaches are at war over who gets the leftovers. And like, I guess maybe I don't know if they intend, like none of the other mice and roaches are entrenched in those styles. So I don't think it was an intentional like clash of eras motif as I try to overthink it.
Well, the mice are portrayed as like 1930s gangsters when they all get together, aren't they? Like,
yeah, I guess so.
They've got that sort of voice, some of them.
And then like the roaches are like, I don't know what to say without sounding really bad, but like they're a modern group of thugs ? I'm being really careful about how I phrase them. It's me analyzing the cartoon. I don't know what to tell you.
It's like your early 90s like bully gang in a film.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe them. It's very specific early 90s gang.
So the special ends with the animals ransacking the dinner while they're gone, and the family's like, I can't believe this food we left out in the open is now ruined. And they kick out the cat, and the cat is now homeless, but the gag at the end is he walks away with a turkey leg, so joke's on them, I guess.
It should have cut back to the dad just having a heart attack and just collapsing.
It's fucking wonderful.
It just keels over and like slams into it. Dad!
Was it the 5 Dairy Kings you ate? What the fuck?
With his last breath, he just lets out another horrifying belch. It's the walking that did him in. They shouldn't have gone for that after dinner walk. That finished him off. That didn't actually happen though, did it? That was that was just in my
The
head.
walk didn't have the like a walk was like from the driveway to their car. Like,
That was the Thanksgiving Dream, the second segment.
which is supposed to be like the wholesome one. Like this is supposed to be, oh, and this is a little more whimsical, but I think this is arguably scarier.
It's a little more whimsical, he says, as it begins in the Great Depression.
Oh,
An
which I'm
entirely
no
superfluous detail, I think.
well, like they say it's the oh, we're all struggling in the depression. I'm no fucking historian. Maybe I'm wrong. This does not look like a depression era kitchen to me. Am I wrong?
No, that's surely not like you haven't been affected by the depression if you've got a house that big.
Yeah, like it's kind of like the idea that the Simpsons were ever poor. It's like they have a rumpus room, all right.
Yeah.
Well, like yeah, and like they got at least like chrome kitchenware. It looks like and tile, you know. Oh man, $2 for on beans for dinner and $1,500 on all of my steel all clad kitchenware. Someone who's good at finances, help me balance this out.
Well, the father of this family is absent. So
Yeah.
my suspicion is that he shot himself in the head after the depression and the Wall Street crash.
Jesus Christ.
That's the implication, I think. That's the reason they said it in the depression.
So this opens in like a dreamlike state where the characters are not fully animated. It's like still images, maybe vaguely moving over like the characters kind of having not inner monologue, but I guess they're talking as they normally would, but it's over still images. So it's kind of, a quick dreamlike intro as they're talking about it's a depression and mother can only afford 1 can of beans for dinner. And mother is not eating, so we can have beans tomorrow, and we're fucking starving. um, it is a harrowing sight, very upsetting. The character designs are they look like the kids from the Christmas Tree with their big scary eyes.
They do a bit, don't they? The limited animation of this reminds me a bit of Witch's Night Out.
Right, yeah.
But the kids look all right, but the mom has a really sort of ghoulish looking face.
Oh, sure. You just sent me a picture of her in the Twitter DM, and I was like, if you show me another one, I'm not responsible for how I react.
The whole special is ghoulish, but her face in particular made me go, ugh, when it popped up.
They have those big, because the Christmas tree special with the lady who tries to like chop down the tree, the really weird one.
Oh, yes.
They look like that with their like real big saucer eyes.
Yeah, they're far too big for her face, and it doesn't look right. And it's particularly jarring when all you've got is a still image that fades into another still image, which why did we get that? Did they just have no money to finish it up? Because that's not a stylistic choice, not animating something. That is a budget saving measure, surely.
Well, I have something of a theory, but it'll make more sense if I get to it when we tie it all together. From the start,
the animators were emotionally exhausted and couldn't finish.
Oh, I have a darker idea, but just you wait. There is something vaguely similar about how the mom is like, sorry kids, all we have is beans, and you'll have beans tomorrow. I won't be eating. And I imagine she's like hoarding a bunch of food in her closet after sending them to bed.
There's no shame in eating beans.
Yeah. So the kids go to bed and they're like, we wish mother could have a real Thanksgiving and da 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 da, and they fall asleep. And when they wake up, they're in motion. They're having their Thanksgiving dream where shit is coming to life. It's like very rubber hosey. They come downstairs and they're like, whoa, there's corn marching into the oven, and all the food comes to life. A turkey, as you said earlier, is basting itself, getting ready to be eaten.
It's all very disturbing. It turns into, what is the Seth Rogen film with the food
I almost
food
said food
fight?
fight. Sausage Party.
Oh, Sausage Party. Yes, Food Fight is a very different film, but
Yeah.
it has the energy of Food Fight with the
Yeah.
concept of Sausage Party, and it's all very disturbing. And I don't like anthropomorphized. It's not really anthropomorphized, is it? Food anthropomorphized. I don't know. I don't know
Like
what to.
preparing itself to be eaten is a very like grim
Yeah,
uh
I can tolerate, inanimate objects coming to life, a la Beauty and
yeah.
the Beast. I draw the line at carrots shaking their asses.
Right. The shapely, horny fucking carrots.
Yes, I don't want to see that. I don't want the sound effect as they sway from side to side.
There's a pet peeve I have. This always drives me nuts when cartoons do this, is that there's little corn niblets that fly off the cob and over some stove like gas flame to cook, and they pop into popcorn. And I don't think that's how corn works. It doesn't turn into popcorn when it's hot enough.
No, corn on the cob, sweet corn doesn't, does it? Surely that's not a thing.
Right.
Is all
Someone and
you would have me believe that all I have to do is open a tin of sweet corn and roast it over a fire and it turns into popcorn.
well, and the cartoons do that. It's like cartoon's favorite fucking joke with corn, and it like does not make any fucking sense. I don't get it.
I wonder how many people have tried to do that since. Like, oh, don't worry, honey, I've got a surprise for dinner. It's gonna
Right.
be popcorn. It's like just this horrible yellow mess.
Yeah, seriously.
It's not popping.
And then I think like the stuffing and mashed potatoes kind of come to life into like a weird blob monster. And what struck me, something about the way the blob monster looks and carries himself, I could only think of real Ghostbusters, like a monster from that.
I was just about to say the same thing. Yeah, it's very Marshmallow Man-esque. And
Yeah.
like the weird, like the monsters from the real Ghostbusters intro all have that exact energy where they're sort of gloopy, weird things moving up and down. That's exactly what it made me think of as well.
And they defeat the monster, I think, by giving him a ton of pepper, right? Is that it?
Yeah, he sneezes himself to death, I guess, is what happens at the end. It's very strange. I don't even know where the monster came from at first. I was very confused. I was confused about the whole segment, really, but that was particularly confusing after the turkey leaning on the oven and checking the time, presumably before he climbed into the oven himself and roasted himself to death. Because I don't think we can underestimate how all the living food in this segment presumably went to their deaths.
Yeah. Because it turns out they wake up from their Thanksgiving dream and all the food is there waiting for them. That's kind of it.
Yeah.
Here's my twisted theory is that the intro before they go to sleep is that weird dreamlike fade imagery. And then from then on, they're still in motion after they wake up. I think the children went hazy